bag of oregano? You really should. You should really think about it because oregano, as we'll find out today, has a lot of amazing properties. Hi, I'm Allison from the Well Cultivated Life, and thank you for joining me here for Flower Power Live this week. So, oregano is a well known spice in our spice rack. It's originally from the Mediterranean region, and it grows alongside a lot of these other culinary plants that we're so familiar with. Oreganum vulgare is the wild oregano, and there are, of course, a number of other types of oreganos that have been developed. There's this golden oregano here, and also this is the regular one, and also a curly oregano, and a variety of different plants that you could put into your garden. They all have these beautiful blooms. Some are darker purple, and some are more of a very light lavender. And they are actually, not only are they beautiful in the garden, they also make a wonderful cut flower, such as this right here. This is some oregano from my garden. And as you'll notice that most of the time when you buy oregano in the store, you'll see just a little piece, of the, like a little, you'll see it in little sprigs like this. But I like to let it go to flower and harvest it when it is just at the beginning of its flowering, because it adds just incredible, lovely extra sort of nectar and aromatic flavor to the dried herb that I'm using. And with oregano, it does spread quite a lot. And so you really need to use caution when you're deciding where to put it in your garden. There was one point when I had so much oregano that it grew out into my lawn. And although this might, be a horror show to people who like those super pristine lawns and stuff, I thought it was great because every time the lawn was mowed, you could smell this delicious fragrance of oregano, an oregano lawn to go with all my other lovely weeds that I love so much. So oregano is also very uh, nutritious, actually. It has a lot of minerals, including um, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, iron, and it also has a bunch of different vitamins, A, C, K, and some B vitamins as well. Now, again, it's something we're all very familiar with and great for flavoring any sort of savory dish that you might be making, or pasta sauce or whatever. But it's become common because it has a very important role in sort of protecting us from our food. And yes, I said from our food because before we had a lot of refrigeration, or it was common, foods had to be preserved in some other way. And a lot of times they would just sit out. And so, unless you were drying something or fermenting it or something like that, you had to take precautions when food was sitting around, especially with meats, because you go out, you kill an animal, and it might take a while to eat all of the meat on the animal. And people did eat every single part of the animal back in the day when they lived more off the land. And so, what is so handy is these herbs that we have for culinary herbs, sage, thyme, and definitely oregano. They are aromatic plants in the mint family, and they have all of these properties that keep us from getting sick by handling these potentially harmful microbes and um, funguses and even viruses that can get on our food and get into our bodies, and also in other ways as well. So this list of oregano's properties is amazing. It's antibacterial, antifungal, antioxidant, antispasmodic, antiviral, carminative, which means it helps with dispelling gas, emmenagogue, which means it's helping with menstrual flow, to increase menstrual flow. It's an expectorant, helps you get up phlegm, and also a nervine. And that is very impressive. Now, one of the potent chemicals in oregano is thymol, which is the same also in thyme. And this is the antiseptic, has these antiseptic properties, and it is very common ingredient in these sort of all natural handy wipes or other sorts of cleaning products. It also has rosmarinic acid, which, guess what other plant has that? Rosemary, right? Which is key for helping with inflammation. And then there's a lot of other sorts of these phenolic kinds of anti-inflammatory compounds in that as well. And now one of the best, of course, when I was doing something with a culinary herb, I thought, well, let me go to one of the kitchen, the Herbal Kitchen by Cami McBride, which is a great source for any of the kind of food type of herbs. And she says that you can make a vinegar out of oregano and use it as a foot soak, especially good for any kind of foot fungus, which I believe athlete's foot is a type of a fungus, as well as, that like toenail fungus that builds up and it just makes your toenail thick and stuff. So apparently there's a potential for it to really help with that. If you are a foot fungus sufferer, then you might check that out. It also can be combined with any other types of herbs. If you have an acute illness, it definitely has an affinity for the respiratory system. So you could add it to a tea of something else that you might be taking if you had some sort of illness. Now, I had my little joke here about, do you want to smoke some oregano? But the truth is that it actually might be smokable. And there is sort of a popular, coming back into popularity, these herbal smoke blends. And you can find different people on Etsy or the internet or wherever that are creating these herbal smoke blends for people who like to smoke, but maybe they don't want to smoke tobacco, or they don't want to smoke a regular cigarette, and let's hope they don't want to vape, or even don't want to smoke cannabis because they're not interested in the psychoactive product results from that. And so oregano could possibly be used as part of a smoke blend. If that's something you're interested in, you should definitely check out what's available online. Mullein is one of the top ones that you'll see in a lot of these blends. And so, hey, might be a good way to kick or to reduce a habit that might not be quite so healthy for you. Now, anytime you start anything new, of course, you should always do the research for yourself, because herbs are powerful, which means that they have the ability to react with any kind of pharmaceutical that you might be taking. And this need to be cautious. I don't often talk about essential oils in the show, but I'm going to talk about oregano essential oil, because essential oils, they can really vary in how their strength and potency and how they are used, and they become very common. So again, with things that are common, we think, oh yeah, it's fine. But oregano is one of these essential oils that is very, very strong, and you should be very safe about the way that you use it. Excuse me 1 second. Needed a sip there. And so if you think of like lavender or something like that, you can pretty much put right on your skin. You definitely cannot do that with oregano oil. Some of the cautions for it are to always use it diluted in another oil, and it's not safe for children necessarily, and definitely not for pregnant women. And these warnings are out there when you go to buy your oil, but sometimes at the bottom of the page and you don't see it, and then there's a lot of misinformation, so you really have to be careful. For example, I saw one page that said, oh, you should always dilute your oregano oil, make sure to put it in some water. And I was like, water and oil don't mix. If you've ever had a hot food that's burning your lips and you try to drink some water to dilute it, you'll find that all it does is spread it out even more across your face or whatever it is that is bothering you. So make sure, if you choose to use oregano oil, I will tell you that I have used oregano oil for if I get a tick bite, I will put the teeniest, tiniest, littlest drop directly on the bite area, and because I want to kill off the pathogens that might be coming in from a tick bite. But again, it does take one time I put too much on, I got a huge red welt on my arm. So use caution, do the research, make sure that whatever you're choosing to use is going to be safe for you and for your skin and for your your system and so on. So next, I wanted to talk about the flower essence. And according to Aquarius Flower Remedies, oregano is the remedy of release. And what it does is it gives us this clarity to see, well, what are the things that I really need to hold on, and what are the things that I just doesn't matter anymore. What isn't relevant to where I am right now, because we do have a tendency to hold on to all kinds of old beliefs and baggage and so on, and that can keep us from really moving forward or enjoying the actual moment that we're in. So, Delta Gardens, they do a curly oregano flower essence, and he says that it's useful, especially when we're holding on to old emotions and denial about the way things are, and that it creates a trust in the inner process and a sense of peace. I cannot think of a better thing that I'd like. I'd love to have a sense of peace as well. So let me just show you real quick. Here's some more. I showed you the flowers already, didn't I? Well, there we go. Let's show you the card for today. So our card for today is from the Green Witch Oracle by Cheralyn Darcey. And I didn't have an oregano card, but I chose marjoram, which is a close cousin of oregano. Oregano, it has the same genus, just has different species. But surprisingly, marjoram does have a few quite different medicinal properties, even though it's very closely related. So the word for today is happiness. And it starts with a question: can you do something differently to move an outcome more in line with your desires? And so, looking at the flower essence message, well, you could probably release some things that are just not relevant to what this desires of yours actually are. So, letting go of those things. Freedom that was once out of reach might now be obtainable. But again, in order to be free, we've got to release things that we don't longer, that no longer are helping us. And some of these things can be rather old. It does come with a warning, however, and says, be careful. Don't feel too free. You don't want to overindulge and overspend and cause any kind of harm to yourself. We just want to try to be a little bit more happy. And this brought me to this whole idea of um, if you ask people, what is your goal in life? And then a lot of people will say, well, I just want to be happy, right? And so, just about everyone, happiness, like permanent happiness, really is not a state that they're in all of the time. The only people I know of that are permanently happy is somebody like the Dalai Lama, right? And why? Because they are choosing this for themselves. And so, what the message from the flower essence was saying is like, you have to let go of these things that aren't relevant, because we have so many conditions on things. We hold on to these old beliefs and stuff. And so we tend to think, oh, well, I can't be happy because something isn't the way that I expect it to be. Now, the other thing is just this whole idea of be happy. And that is to do with just being in a state of being. And when I'm being something, I'm being that right now, not tomorrow or yesterday or any of those things. And so making the choice to be happy, if you um, look at people who have really studied happiness or written books about happiness, they'll say that it is pretty much a choice to be happy at any given moment. And in our Western culture, of course, we are not taught that. And we're not even aware of the fact that we have a choice to be a certain way a lot of the time. And the main thing is like, we don't have to attain something to be happy. You don't have to have this thing. We always think, well, when I get to this goal, I'll be happy. But the other thing that I think is even harder for us is that we put a lot of conditions on the way that we've been and how we don't deserve to be happy in so many ways. And the truth is that there is nothing that you've done wrong that forbids you from being able to make a choice of being happy in any given moment, regardless of what anyone says and regardless of what the situation is that's going on. So when you start to do that, this is your challenge for the week is to just try to choose happiness in a given moment. And you will find out that just like oregano, choosing happiness is incredibly powerful. So that's our message from Oregano tonight. Thank you so much for joining me here for Flower Power Live. If you are watching on YouTube or you're watching the replay, please leave a comment down below and make sure to like or subscribe. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful night.